Do you have something you follow to do an introduction, for example, your story? What do you do to do the introduction of your speech, at the
Well,
beginning of your speech?
yeah, it depends on the speech. But what I typically do is I'll open up with a story. So let's say it's a sales speech that I'm
Yeah.
giving. I have three basic talks that I give. One is on sales, one is on service and customer
Yeah.
loyalty, and one is on the platinum rule. Okay,
What is,
so
what is the last one?
the platinum rule. So we have a rule here called the golden rule. The golden rule, I know you know it. You may not know it by that name. The
Okay.
golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
That's what we call the golden rule.
Okay.
I have
The platinum.
the platinum rule, okay? And that is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. You know that old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans? You ever hear that saying?
No.
So, for instance, if somebody were going to Europe on business,
Yeah.
and one day they were in sales meetings with the Italians, and the next day with the Germans, and
Yeah.
the next day with the French, and the next day with the Poles or whatever, they could not do the same exact thing every day, could they? Because they're different cultures. They have different ways of doing things. You know, with the Germans, you better be on time, better be focused, better get to the task at hand. With the Italians, you know, you can be more, and so on. You could be more informal, for instance, with the Italians and the French, but with the Germans, you don't want, you don't want to hug them, or or you know, do a two-handed handshake. So the saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans, is basically wherever you are, make sure that you adapt your behavior to the culture and customs of the people you're dealing with. So that's what the platinum rule is all about. So back to how do I open a speech? How do I open a speech? So on a sales speech, I will come right out after I'm introduced, and I'll say, I learned many years ago that there's a big difference between making a sale and making a customer.
You start, let's say, like that.
Just like that. And then I say,
Don't say your name.
they already told who I was. Why would I say my name?
Okay.
There's somebody who introduces me.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Tony Alessandra. Right. I come out, and boom, I'm right. I learned many years ago that there's a big difference between making a sale and making a customer. I learned that on my first full-time sales job back in 1966. Now, what it does, I only tell this to sales groups. What does it tell them? Hey, this guy sold. This guy's been a salesperson. And the story is a good story and a funny story, but a very pointed story. It makes a point that depending on what you do and how you do it, you will either make a sale, and that's it, or you will make a customer, which is many sales. So that's that story. If it's a customer service talk, I might come out and say, I was standing in line, and it was a long line, and I tell a story about how I was treated by a service person in a business. I don't mention the business name, but how I was treated, and I say it created a moment of misery for me. Now, I then tell a second part of the story where the person created a moment of magic. And I really talk about the difference between creating moments of misery and moments of magic. How you fall short of a customer's expectations or exceed a customer's expectations. But it's a story, and everything is built off the story.
And how long is the story?
Just a few minutes. Here's something that somebody once told me. The length of the story should be equivalent to the strength of the punchline or the moral or whatever. If it's a weak ending to it, a soft ending, it should be a very short story. You don't want to tell a big story that has just a little payoff at the end. The story could be as long as the strength of the payoff of that story.
Of the message.
Yeah, of the message itself. So typically, you know, my stories.
How many stories you have in?
Oh, I have a lot of stories, and
in a
that's
speech. In one speech, you have maybe how many stories you have in one speech?
it really it just depends. Let's say the speech is an hour. You know, I might have 3, 4, 5 stories, but a lot of things are short little. All right, here's one. They're little things, but it gets laughs. So, for instance, I'm talking about this one personality that's very outgoing and, you know, talking a lot, and we call it a high I. Are you familiar with the DISC style, the DISC model of behavior, the DISC?
No.
Dominance,
yes.
influence.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the I, the high I, and I might say that their thoughts are like gumballs. Do you know what a gumball is?
No.
It used to be, you don't see it that much here, but it was a little candy machine where you put a nickel in it, and in this candy clear bowl that's closed, you put a nickel in and you turn it, and then they're gum. It's gum, but they're shaped as balls with a candy coating. So you chew it.
I see that in movies, I think.
But we call it, a gumball. And so I say that the socializers, their thoughts are like gumballs. They just fall to the tongue and roll out. And it basically is about people who just say whatever's on their mind. They don't even think about it. They just say it. They blurt it out. Little things like that. So it's not a story.
You metaphor.
Yeah.
You kind of
a lot, but I do a lot of those. But as for the actual full stories, it really depends on the length of the speech. The longer the speech, the more stories. But let's say in an hour, I might have anywhere from as little as 2 to as many as 4 or 5, and that's it. And each story may be 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes. Again, it depends on the payoff
I think
of the story.
I understand.